right passion, and passion leads to your purpose. What are you saying here? When we spend time in the presence of God, we become passionate about God. You spend time in your word, your passion grows. Somebody say amen. It's kind of like your spouse. You know, they say absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? But absence can only go so far. Come on now, walk with me a bit. Help me preach. She tells me sometimes, you got to pull me out all the time. Show everybody how married up I am. They say absence makes the heart grow fonder. There's truth in that. But if you spend your whole life distant and disconnected, you miss out. You miss out on what God has for you. You're supposed to draw, thank you. You're supposed to draw close to the Lord. He said, what did he say? Draw close to me. And he said, I will draw close to you. So if you want your passion for God to develop, you have to draw close to the Lord. So what happens then when you draw close to God and your passion grows, then your purpose begins to be revealed because that passion is being fed and it opens your eyes to the things of God. The closer you are to the Lord, the more likely you're going to see God's purpose for you. But if you only visit Jesus once a month on Sunday morning, oh, good preaching, Brother John. If you only get in his presence once a month or twice, you see this vest? My wife bought it for me for Christmas. Pretty, right? I didn't wear my other one out. I love to watch Georgia play, even when they make me mad or sad or somewhere in between. But I will give my undivided attention to that ball game. Come on now. Undivided. I'm talking like everybody be quiet. Hush. Not going to miss it. Eye on the ball, right? What if we love Jesus like that? Undivided attention. Lord, what do you want to say today? What do you want to do today? I want to know you more. God, whatever direction you want me going in, just use me for your glory. I want to serve you. I want to be that light in the midst of darkness. You shining through me, the salt of the earth. Right? Number 5, the atmosphere of God releases, we said, the right passion. Passion leads to our purpose. See, Paul was passionate, or Saul was passionate about what he did, and he thought it was his purpose. But God said no, and what happened when God redirected him? His passion changed. So let me ask you this question. What are you passionate about? It's quiet in here this morning. Brother John, it's just the day after Christmas, and you're already, yes. Let's start 2022 saying, I want to be passionate for Jesus. I want to be on fire for Jesus. I want to be excited about Jesus. I want to serve him with every fiber of my being. But the Lord said to him, go, for he is a chosen vessel of mine to bear my name before Gentiles, kings, and the children of Israel. Notice what God had chosen him for. For I will show him how many things he must also suffer for my name's sake. Number 6, and my last thing today, feed your passion and your purpose gets released. What do you mean? Don't spend your life thinking that the purpose of God's going to fall into your lap if you're not going to feed the passion that you have for the works of God. What? Don't spend your life thinking that the purpose of God is just going to fall in your lap. Feed your passion for God. Grow that passion. Grow that hunger. Develop that relationship. And then the purpose of God. He's not going to give you that purpose until you've reached that level of maturity that comes through a passionate relationship with the Lord. You ever heard about somebody having an encounter with God where they took a bold stand for the Lord and something great happened? Why did that happen? Because they were passionate. If you look at Paul, who was Saul, his passion was even greater for God, and this redirected life, this saved life, that he was willing to be beaten, come on, tortured, abused, rejected. He raised up children, Timothy, spiritual sons. Why? Because he was passionate about the advancement of the message of the gospel. Passionate. I think sometimes we as church folk are expectant that the pastor should be passionate and that we get encouraged and we make it to the next Sunday. But I just believe we should live full of passion. Come here, Kylie. Help Daddy. Sometimes we're driving down the road. I have to one-up Tanner. I got to stay on my game, right? We're driving down the road, and I just reach over and I tell her, I said, I'll tell her, I love you. I'm so proud of you. Go home, clean your room. And I'm picking on you, Tanner, but it's a father's job to remind them of how special they are. You hearing me? What are you passionate about? Feed your passions and your purpose gets released. So when he had received food, he was strengthened. Notice this, verse 19. Then Saul spent some days with the disciples at Damascus. Immediately he preached the Christ in the synagogues, that he is the Son of God. While feeding the passion of God, listen to me, while feeding the passion of God through service, he will reveal his purpose for your life. You want to know the purpose of God? Do what you know to do right now. Don't just sit back and wait for it to fall in your lap. Do what you know to do right now. I can give you a list. Food ministry, worship team, Sunday school teachers, nursery workers, children's church, community outreach. When we make that next step, get ready. So I ask you this morning as I close, are you ready to redirect your passion toward God's purpose for your life? Are you ready to feed your purpose with a passion for God? It's always amazed me sometimes the things the Lord has used in my life to win people to Christ. I call them connecting points. A natural gift or passion. One of the first men that came into leadership as a new convert in our last pastorate. I was standing in a local business one day owned by one of my deacons. It was a sporting goods store. Carried everything from deer stands to handguns and rifles and bows and archery stuff. I mean, just you name it. He had it. And I was standing there in that business, and this guy walked in, and he would listen. He was cussing like a sailor, man. I mean, it was rough, just one word after another coming out of his mouth. And I mean, tough words. And his son was standing there, and his son said, hey, he's a preacher. You know how that goes, right? And he turned around, and he said, hey, brother, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And I said, hey, man, it's not me. I'm a big boy. I can handle it, but the Lord's always listening. I don't usually say that, but I said it that day. He'd always come over there, and this particular deacon always kept moon pies and RC colas. He knew that some of the guys liked the kind of old school, you know. And he'd come in and he'd get him a moon pie and an RC cola. Anyway, we're standing there talking, and the next thing I know, he comes back the next day. And he comes back the next day. I did a Bible study there in the morning. Sometimes different series we would do. I'd meet up there, a bunch of guys would drink coffee, and they'd gather around, and I'd do this Bible study with them. And I'd led some of them. In fact, I got a text this morning from a guy that I led to the Lord probably 15 years ago. Same kind of story. He was a hunting buddy. I was passionate about hunting. Are you listening to me? And so this particular guy would come in and get the moon pie, the RC Cola. We'd have a conversation. So I started inviting him to church. And he starts talking about turkey hunting. See, I'd always deer hunted. I'd never went turkey hunting.